Hey guys, this is Mrs. Powell, and we are going to do a little bit of practice with diagramming infinitives in sentences, as we have done a few ed puzzles explaining what infinitives are. We are going to actually practice using infinitives in a grammar sentence that's related to the poem The Witch that we read this week in class. Our two learning goals are: I can independently identify infinitives and infinitive phrases within a simple sentence. If you notice, independently is underlined and bold. Because this will be an ed puzzle video, you will have to pause and you will have to identify what the infinitive is within the sentence. So when it says independently, even though this is a voiceover, you will still have to independently identify your infinitives and infinitive phrases within your simple sentence. Your second learning goal is: I can diagram a simple sentence that includes an infinitive phrase with assistance. So I will be assisting you with diagramming the sentence that has the infinitive and infinitive phrase. I will provide the diagram and walk you through how to appropriately place your words. The first thing that we're going to look at is the sentence parts of each word. When you're diagramming your sentence, it will require you to be able to identify your parts of speech so that you know where each word goes on your diagram, because when you diagram, every single word in the sentence must be a part of the diagram. In order to determine what your subject and your predicate are, you have to know the parts of speech for each word. So we're going to start with this sentence, which is: the witch plans to cast grim spells. The first word, the, is an article. It modifies the word witch. And articles act similarly to adjectives, and they modify nouns. Because which is not a specific name of a person, it is a common noun. What the witch plans to do is cast the grim spells. So your verb, the actual thing that is being done, is going to be plans, and it is present tense. In order for it to be future tense, it would need to be the witch will plan to cast grim spells. Something that we have not identified within sentences yet is infinitives. So in this instance, to is not going to act as a preposition. In this instance, to is part of an infinitive. Your infinitive is to cast. To identify what an infinitive is, remember the formula: to plus a verb. So you're going to have to, and then you're going to have whatever that action is, and the action is casting. So in order for it to be a preposition, a noun would need to follow. Okay? So because to is not followed by a noun, it is an infinitive. If to had a noun after it, it would be a preposition, which would lead to a prepositional phrase. Because to cast is an infinitive, you'll have an infinitive phrase when we're looking at the different phrases in the sentence. The next thing we're going to notice is the last two words, which are grim spells. Grim is going to describe the word spells. So spells is a common noun, and grim, the modifier, is going to be an adjective. Next, we're going to identify sentence parts and phrases. Because this is a pretty simple sentence, you won't have as many markings as you would some other sentences. So first, let's identify our simple subject. Remember, your simple subject is going to be the who or what that goes along with your verb. Remember, we identified plans as our verb in the sentence. The one that's doing the planning is the which. So which will be your simple subject. Your simple subject is only that noun. It does not include the word the, which is an article that's modifying which. Your complete subject is going to be the which. Remember, your complete subject is going to be your simple subject plus modifiers. And there's only one. In this instance, because this is a simple sentence and we don't have any phrases, this will have a complete predicate that starts with the verb, which is plans, and goes to the end of the sentence. Plans is your action verb, which means it has the potential to be a transitive verb. In order to determine whether it is a transitive verb or an intransitive verb, we have to figure out whether there is a direct object within this sentence. This sentence does not have a prepositional phrase because there were no prepositions, so it is very likely that we have a direct object. Remember, a direct object cannot be part of a prepositional phrase. Remember, we identified to cast as our infinitive, so what's being cast is those spells. So spells will be our direct object because it is a noun. It is following your action verb as well. So plans will be a transitive verb. And we're going to mark our infinitive phrase, which is to cast grim spells. And don't forget to mark spells as your direct object as well. This sentence contained one subject and one verb. With that, there were also no extra phrases. There was an infinitive phrase that was included within the sentence, but because of the placement of that infinitive phrase, this is going to be a simple sentence. It is a simple sentence because there is only one independent clause. So when we're looking for our clauses, we're going to look at whether the statement can stand alone or if it needs extra phrases to make it a complete sentence. In order for something to be a complete sentence, it needs to have a subject and it needs to have a predicate. The purpose of this sentence is declarative because it is simply making a statement. It is not asking a question. It is not an exciting statement, an emotional statement, and it is also not giving directions. As I said before, this is a simple sentence because it only contains an independent clause. In this particular sentence, we did not have any proper nouns. So for the most part, our capitalization is going to be the first word of the sentence, which is the. We're going to capitalize that T. Your sentence should always start with a capital letter and it should always end with punctuation. And we're missing a period there. This is what your sentence should look like when it is written out complete and correct. So now that we have gone through our grammar practice process, we are going to look at how to properly diagram this sentence. As always, we start with our horizontal line as our base. Here to the left, you should have your subject, what your simple subject was. If you remember, we identified which as our simple subject and the as the modifier. So the will go on this slanted line as a modifier of which, and which will go above the line, above the horizontal line. If you notice, the is capitalized. That is to signal that that is the beginning of the sentence. It is the first word of the sentence. The next thing we're going to look at is our verb, which is plans. This line, this vertical line that goes through the horizontal line, is separating your subject and your predicate. Everything on this side of the line is your predicate. Your verb needs to go here. No matter whether your verb is transitive or intransitive, it is going to go to the right of your subject. So we're going to put that there. What is being planned is the casting of these Grimm spells. So now we need to look at how to diagram our infinitive phrase, because this is our first time diagramming an infinitive phrase together. So we're going to draw a diagonal line from our verb, and then we're going to attach a horizontal line to it. That's going to give us some extra space to include our infinitive phrase. Please be mindful that every time we have an infinitive phrase, it will not always be set up this way. It just depends on the placement of the infinitive phrase in your sentence. That is going to determine where your infinitive phrase is going to go in your diagram. With this particular sentence, this is where we are placing our infinitive phrase in our diagram. So, on the diagonal line, just like when you have a prepositional phrase, you will have the word to, and your verb cast will go here. So when you have your infinitive phrase, to will go here, your verb will go here. The next thing we have in our sentence is Grimm spells. If you remember, Grimm is your modifier for spells. Your modifiers are going to go on slanted lines below the word that's being modified. Because spells is a direct object, next to your verb, you are going to have this vertical line that stops at your horizontal line. This is not going through because this is not a subject. This is not a predicate. This is just your infinitive and your direct object of the sentence with its modifier. So, spells is your direct object, and Grimm is the modifier that modifies it. So now that we have completely diagrammed our sentence, remember, always check to make sure that every single word is within your diagram, and that will let you know that you are done.